In 1984, a man had a sudden, terrifying epiphany before disappearing into the night. 2 hours later, he reappeared in his childhood hometown, panicked, claiming that something terrible was about to happen. He once again disappeared only to be discovered miles away, completely naked and near death in a wrecked car, leaving behind a cryptic 6-letter clue and a trail of paranoid predictions. Today, we unravel the mysterious death known as the YOGTZE case. This is Red Web. Welcome back, Task Force, to another episode of Red Web, the podcast all about unsolved mysteries, true crime, and the unknown. I'm your resident mystery enthusiast, Trevor Collins, and joining me hearing this case for the very first time, Alfredo Diaz.
This is like it seems like a true mystery. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just run off into the night, disappear, winds up dead, cryptic message. This could spiral in so many different directions.
Yeah, dude. It's got a little bit of everything in this one.
Yeah, what a little teaser. Did he have ties to the mob? Was he being taken out? Did he know something, and the government wanted to take him out?
Okay, yeah.
We got paranormal stuff happening. You were thinking he's visited by aliens? You can go so many different ways with this.
Sure. A ghost told me to do it. Yeah, dude, this has almost everything that we've seen in this show. I will spoil, there's no paranormal, but he was very paranoid, if that's what you're picking up on. And a little surprise zest on this one. There's 2 sections of theories. We're going to explore what this cryptic note that he left behind is. What was he possibly thinking in these hours before his untimely demise? And then, of course, the true crime angle. What happened to him? Why did he die? How did he die? And trying to combine all these really vague clues, because even though this happened in recent memory, 1984, the sources disagree with themselves all over the place. So every time I tell you a source says one thing, just know they're kind of also saying other things.
From the same source?
So no, from different sources, to be fair. But yeah, it's one of those hairy ones. You'd think it was all bulletproof, well documented and what have you, but no, sources got to be disagreeing on major clues.
As always.
Always. And then I didn't know this one until we dove into it, but the other added ingredient here, the zest on the sauce, is we think this one might be solved. Local police reopened this case just a little over a year ago, and they have a conclusion. So we're going to end with that one. And what's going to be interesting is to combine the case as it was investigated back in the 80s and compare it to modern times. How do they align? How do they misalign? And what's going on with that? It's a very, very fascinating case. And I want to shout out Max, aka Fenric, for submitting this one, because Task Force, you can submit mysteries, movie clubs, gameplays, whatever you want us to look at or investigate. So thank you very much, Max, for submitting this one, because it was a mind twist.
Yeah, the fact that it's solved, it's compounding. It's where is it going?
Yes.
Where does the actual mystery go? And then from there, how does everything fit into place where we feel like it's solved?
Right.
That we have an answer.
Yeah. And will there be comfort in that knowledge? Or again, as always, is there going to be a little room for conspiracy to say, I don't know if this is, we'll get into it.
Yeah, good point. Solved doesn't necessarily mean satisfying.
There you go. I'll put that on a t-shirt, because that is 90% of the solved cases are like, I don't know though. It's still some room for I don't know isms here.
Yeah.
But very quickly before we dive into today's episode, last Friday we released our West Virginia Penitentiary Ghost Hunt debrief. A lot of nouns there. But this was my first chance to react to what Fredo and Christian saw at the Ghost Hunt. And so I react to a few scenes. It was wild. I know Fredo's not here to react with it, but man, there's so many sounds, so many things. Task Force, we need your ears on this, because I'm very curious. And of course, we go over your timestamps, the things you saw, the things you heard, try to debunk a few things based on what we can, because we want to have a real authentic experience. We want to catch a ghost. That way, in a Pokeball style. This Wednesday, we have another poll coming out, the place where you can decide what movie club we're doing. Sometimes we decide what Red Web we're doing based on these polls. We also decided West Virginia Penitentiary based on a poll like this. So come join the task force if you want to get your vote and be heard. And then this Friday, if you want to mark your calendars, we had a really good time doing a movie club over Resident Evil. 2002's Resident Evil is not a great movie, but man, Fredo Blake breaks down the plot, and we also kind of give our reactions, the insights, the analysis, everything that we saw, what we liked. And yeah, there's the plot to stitch it all together, but movie clubs are always just a good time, whether you've seen the movie or not. So come hang out with us. Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. So redwebpod.com, that's where you can support us directly. And of course, store.redwebpod.com. We still have and will forever have our Patreon exclusive shirt. It's available right now via a hidden link, only accessible to our Patreon members. Here's a picture of it right here. It is our 6-year anniversary tour shirt. So it's a look back on all these different places we've, air quotes, been, topics we've explored, and man, it's one of our favorite shirts. We've been loving these merch designs, man, but this is also one of our favorites. So, all right, lots to talk about, but also lots to explore in this case. So, back to the episode. All right, now as we dive into this case, of course, sensitive topics will be in the description for those who want them, but Fredo, let me wind back the clock and take you all the way back to 1984. A German man named Günther Stoll was a former food engineer living in Anshausen, West Germany. At the time, Stoll had been unemployed for several months and had been dealing with a moderate case of paranoia. In fact, Stoll's wife, who has remained anonymous to the public, reported that Stoll would tell her that he felt people were following him and would want to harm him. He referred to these individuals as denen, translated to English that would be those. So kind of just a mysterious the others is how he's referring to them as. Now, on October 24th, 1984, Stoll once again mentioned that he felt like he was being followed. Then, shortly before 11 p.m. that night, he suddenly shouted, "Jetzt geht mir ein Licht auf," which translates literally to "now the penny drops," which kind of means casually, "now I get it," or "now I understand."
Got it.
So he comes home that night and he's like, "Honey, again, they're trying to hurt me. They're following me." Goes off to his room, his office maybe. Late that night, he shouts like he has an epiphany. He then scribbles down on a piece of paper 6 letters, YOGTZE, or YOGTZE. He reportedly crossed out the letters immediately after writing them, though some sources state that he only crossed out the letter E. We will never know.
Dang. Just something that's tangible, but it's like, how do you find such a small thing, you know?
I know. And hold on to this. Hold on to this frustration, because the revelation on this note will be aggravating. I think it's a cornerstone on what we need to know. But I'll tell you now, it's ephemeral. It's gone. So shortly after this, he goes to his favorite bar named the Papillon. This is in Wilmsdorf. Wilmsdorf is a 10-minute drive from his town there in Anshausen. And it's important to note that the exact timing of these events is a little fuzzy. All right. So we know that he had this epiphany nearing 11 p.m. And let's just say some sources say that he arrived at the bar at 11 p.m. Some say that he left his house at 10:45 or left his house at 11. But either way, he's at this bar shortly after around 11 p.m. Now at the bar, he goes to the counter, he orders a beer. And before he can even take a sip of this alcohol, he falls to the ground, seemingly passing out. Now some reports state that he was unharmed, but others say that it was a facial injury that he took on when he hit the ground. Other patrons then of course see this happen. They rush to his side to see if he's okay. According to witness reports, it didn't seem like he was under the influence of alcohol and had just randomly lost consciousness. Though again, some sources state that he did appear to be inebriated in some way. That's where it's really hard to tell what's going on this night. So he quickly wakes up after falling down. He sees everyone trying to help him out. He gets up, doesn't bother with his beer. He seemingly leaves the bar immediately and drives away in his light blue Volkswagen Golf Mark I. And his whereabouts for the next 2 hours are unknown. I have an image of a rough approximation of what a 1980s Golf Mark I would look like in that color. If you want to take a look here.
Yeah, that's a cool little hatchback.
Yeah, that looks like the Mirthmobile from Wayne's World.
Yeah, it does.
Something about those 80s cars being extra boxy.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not into the 90s cars, but 80s had it, you know?
80s did have it. They were boxy and they had the big circular lights on a lot of the cars. I don't know. It's crazy to think, things like that. We're just like, oh, yeah, that's just an older car. Probably rolling into vintage now,
Oh, totally. I'll be honest. It was really hard to find this car not slammed. This car gets like taken and modded a lot with like nice rims slammed.
Just slam it all the time. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, hugging the ground. Okay, so he goes to the bar. Some say he seems drunk. Some say he seems fine. Some say he falls and gets hurt, but mostly he just goes there, orders a drink, doesn't bother with it, passes out, wakes up, drives away. And we don't know where he was for 2 hours. So now it's around 1 a.m. in the morning. We cut now to his childhood hometown, and I'm going to do my best, German listeners, Heigerseelbach. Heigerseelbach is roughly 10 kilometers away, or maybe 6 miles or so, from Wilnsdorf, where the bar was. And while he's in his hometown there, where he grew up, he went to the home of an elderly woman that he knew when he was growing up. I don't have it in my notes, the relationship to this woman, but she knows him. They recognize each other. And I don't know if he rings the doorbell, pounds on the door. Either way, he wakes her up in the night. It's 1 a.m. And he's insisting that he needs to speak with her urgently. In fact, he says that there's going to be some sort of horrible accident that night, or a horrible incident that's going to happen to him specifically. And so she's confused. Why are you here? I haven't seen you in years. She's feeling very uncomfortable with his erratic behavior, and she suggests that he go to his parents' home instead. Speak with your parents, speak with your family. Now, it's unclear where they might have lived, if they were nearby or if in a different town, but ultimately, it's a wise move. Hey, I don't know why you came to me, but maybe go to your family. Now, he reportedly said to her in response something like, they wouldn't understand, and they wouldn't understand what he was talking about, or they wouldn't understand him even. But the woman still insisted that he leave, this time saying that he should go back home and be with his wife. And so he does. He leaves, and that's the last we know, for again, another 2 hours would go by with no sightings of this man. So 4 hours left unaccounted for after some seemingly worried paranoia behavior here.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see if there's any kind of mental diagnosis. That does seem kind of like a break of the psyche,
Sure. Yeah, definitely some sort of mental health issue here going on. Or possible, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sporadic thoughts and actions. And so that's where my mind is at with that too. So I'm glad you pointed that out.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we don't know too awful much yet, but from everything we do know, yeah, it does fit that the paranoia of somebody following, the idea that somebody might want to harm you, the dread of impending doom. We've explored that too. And honestly, one of the episodes we talked about where a man from San Francisco went to Seattle, or vice versa, I forget, and saw a witch, and they felt like they were cursed, and ultimately this dread might have been a symptom of a heart issue even. It's wild how physical symptoms can manifest like this. So really, it does feel like it could be a medical thing at this point, right? So another 2 hours goes by, and we don't know where he's at, but now it's approximately 3 a.m. in the morning of October 26, and this is where 2 truck drivers are driving along, and they discover a wrecked Volkswagen Golf Mark I. I'll say this, viewer discretion is advised, though it's not super dramatic, but before we put it up, I wanted to say that there is an image of that wrecked car back in 1984. So Fredo, if you'd like, I have that image for you here.
Oh, the trunk is open.
Mm-hmm.
The passenger seat door is open as well. The hood is smashed. The front is smashed. It's out in the trees in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And it looks like the front window is completely broken in.
It's hard to tell, but it does seem like it could be that way.
It doesn't look as wild as you think it would, but it doesn't take much to kill someone in a car accident.
Yeah. Hold on to that. I really, that's why I wanted your raw assessment of this crash, because both of what you just said are completely valid.
Okay, interesting.
So it doesn't look too dramatic, but it doesn't also, we're going to explore that in the theories.
Yeah, because it doesn't take much, but also this, depending on if the body was found, how it was found,
Yep.
You know, if it was completely, lack of a kinder word, mangled. I don't quite know if this would have done it, Something like that is where my head is at.
Yeah, it's a very good observation, very intuitive. Hold on to that. We'll explore it.
Okay.
So these two truck drivers come through. They see this wrecked car. It's 3 a.m. So they're like, this is abnormal. They pull over and they kind of split up. But before we get there, the vehicle itself, this car that you saw, it's in a trench next to the A45 or the Autobahn 45. It's a road in Germany near the Hagensud exit. Now approximately 100 kilometers or 60 miles away from Heigerseelbach. So now we are quite a distance away from where he lives with his wife. 60 miles, you could do in an hour. I'm not going to over dramatize this, but he went from his hometown 10 minutes away to a bar, 6 miles away to his hometown as a child, and then 60 miles away at this point. So it's an interesting little pattern here. Now, of course, upon seeing the car, they pulled over to investigate. And per their report, one of the truck drivers made their way to the closest roadside telephone to kind of report this incident, while the other one kind of slowly approached the scene to take it in and kind of get a closer look as to what was going on, if anyone needed help or anything. And inside the car, the truck driver discovered the severely injured Stoll. In the car, Stoll was completely naked, lying in the passenger seat of the car, and barely conscious. He managed to tell the truck driver that there were 4 other men in the car with him who had all fled the scene. He stated that the men were all strangers, not friends of his, though some sources indicate that Stoll said these men had beaten him up and left him for dead. Regardless, an ambulance arrived on scene shortly thereafter, and unfortunately, this would be the last piece of information obtained from Stoll about this accident, because he would pass away in the ambulance on the way to the hospital.
Okay. Yeah, when you said he was found naked in his car, I was like, car accidents don't do that.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
I have seen shoes fly off when a moped goes wrong, but
yeah, you're not finding people in car accidents butt-ass naked. Interesting. So then was there a struggle in the vehicle and that's why they crashed? Was this 84 you said?
Yes.
So probably not heavy on DNA analysis during those times.
Correct.
I hate when it's just like on the cusp.
Right on the cusp, Yeah.
Just like, ugh.
Well, hold on to it. Modern investigations coming through.
That's true. I very regularly get surprised of how often they'll take evidence from a different time period, run it through whatever the new modern technology is or iteration of DNA analysis to find the answer. Yeah, that's something that still surprises me, and I constantly forget that. I would be interested to see if there's any evidence whatsoever of anyone else in the vehicle.
Okay. Yes, you're onto something. You're cooking.
But if there wasn't, then what would have happened there? Did he just gun it and then jump into the passenger seat and had previously stripped himself of his clothing?
Good questions.
Which isn't far-fetched because of the fact that he has had somewhat of what appears to be a mental break during this time. My mind is wandering around.
Yeah, no, I love to hear the wander because you're dancing around a lot of themes here, a lot of what makes people confused and intrigued by this case, but also definitely what the theories are attempting to resolve. So there is more, I will say, to what the truckers saw that day. We'll kind of like roll it out as it makes sense rather than just kind of info dump everything. But I want to move into the investigation because immediately an investigation is launched here. It's a very confusing scene, a very confusing series of events. And they want to determine exactly what happened in these early morning hours, especially in these gaps that we just don't know about. And we also know investigators are aware of what the wife is saying, that, okay, he is saying that night that something terrible is going to happen. That doesn't rule out reckless self-endangerment. But the fact that the truckers, knowing nothing about that, are also saying, yeah, he's telling us that other people were in the car with him and they might have beaten him near to death and then left him to die. I mean, there's a lot that you really, really need to take a closer look at. So investigators are looking in there. There's a coroner that investigates his body, and they determine that Stoll's injuries were not obtained in the car crash, but happened some time prior. They also concluded that he must have already been naked at the time that he sustained those injuries. Now that I'm not exactly sure how they determined, but that is kind of the conclusion at that time.
Yeah. How do you determine that?
It could be like road rash. It could be that they didn't see any like fabrics. Like if there was a big scrape, like, oh, this was
fibers embedded into the skin or something.
Fibers in the skin, or like if I were to get road rash with a bare shirt, I would certainly get injured still, but it might be slightly less of an injury than just raw skin. Again, I'm kind of just guessing here, mostly leaning on their conclusion at that time.
And also, is the clothing in the vehicle, is it anywhere nearby?
This is the part that blows me away the most. I've got it later in my notes, so I'm just going to spit it out here, Fredo, because it's a great question. Some sources state that his shoes were found in the back with nothing else. Some other sources state that his clothes were neatly folded in the back seat or the back trunk, but also others say that they were completely missing. I don't know how we don't know.
The minute you said some sources, I was like, here we go. Everyone's going to report a different thing. I know where this is going with some sources. Damn it.
Yes, it's always some sources. I will say, in our notes, working with Kat here, the leading report is that the shoes were in the car and that's it. It's a trickling of other reports and a lot of internet conversations, so take it with a grain of salt that infer that the clothes were also in the car folded
It's also
up.
like, damn, people, if you don't have information, if you don't have it, just shut up.
Right, don't try to make it more interesting or more mysterious.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
My interpretation of it that I'm going to display as fact. Shut up.
Yes.
Stop it. You're just confusing the case for everyone generations down the line. You are playing the game of telephone, which is already difficult, very incorrectly.
Right.
Stop it. We don't need your take on it.
Right, right.
Like that you're claiming to be information, you know?
Right. It's fine to have a take. It's kind of like it's a blurry line in the sand when you start to unconfidently, well, maybe confidently state clues that may or may not exist.
Right. I see all the time. I know nothing about nothing. If years
Right.
from now, someone's like, whoa, a quote from this red web, Alfredo said this, I'd be like, you are an idiot.
I'm not a source. I'm not a primary source.
I don't have to be taken as a source. I don't know anything about anything. That's why I'm in this role. I ask questions. I don't know jack. If you want to talk
Right.
about nerd stuff, let's get into it. But other than that,
Yes. It's why, like, I love approaching these with a level head. I want to have my assessment, my personal gut instinct, like you have yours.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the facts, I'm going to lay it down like I sees them and then call it out when it's annoying like this, because I don't know if this man was buck wild, folding his clothes in the back, or just launching him out the window.
No clue.
Or if he was, I don't know, attacked and stripped as a part of this attack. All of these things on the table.
Because someone somewhere was like, this is my interpretation of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't put that disclaimer, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure an investigator somewhere was like, what happened? And they were just like, this is my interpretation. He did not have clothes in the car. And it's like, well,
Clues are not interpretive. the clues were there or not. Anyway, I mean, there's also primary sources that also have it this way and that. The game of telephone's always going to plague these cases because they're unsolved. But initially, coming back to the coroner here, they thought that he had been run over by a car just based on the severity of these injuries.
really?
Yeah, that he was run over by a car somewhere else and then basically placed in the passenger seat of his own car before then being driven to the crash site. And I'm glad you noticed this. I'm glad you pointed this out, because honestly, I wasn't thinking about this, but they were concluding that the damage to the car was, definitely done at the scene of the crash, that it definitely sustained these injuries here. It wasn't like, let's damage the car and place it. So the car itself seemingly definitely took a few rollovers from the road down into the trench, but they also concluded that the damage was inconsistent with the injuries that you would see on his person.
Yeah, see, I kind of knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. So car injuries make sense for the scene. Body injuries maybe don't. That's what the coroner's kind of saying at the time.
Yeah, see, my mind was already going there.
Now, this is where I'll be more official about it. I got it in my notes. The shoes were found in the car, and some reports state that they were on the driver's side floorboard. The rest of his clothes were seemingly never recovered, though, of course, we've already had this conversation that some say they were neatly folded in the back of the car. Now, there's no evidence of robbery, as his wallet and his keys were still present in the car, which is definitely an interesting piece of information to kind of paint the picture as to what the motive might have been here. Now, it's also reported that the blood splatter was also inconsistent with the crash, as the driver's side seat of this vehicle was essentially free of any splatter stains, while the passenger side had a significant amount of splatter to it. We'll get into this in the theories more and in the answer at the very end, but if a body is tossed, if you're not wearing your seatbelt, I don't see why it's unreasonable that you get thrown during a rollover, potentially to the opposite side of the car, depending on which way it's turning over.
I keep trying to envision it in my head.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like the different scenarios and what it would look like. Did they say how the body was positioned in the passenger seat?
It's a great question. Not that we could find.
Damn.
Yeah.
I didn't think we had that information because I feel like we would have brought that to the front already.
Yeah.
Cause I'm thinking like, is he in a car? Like, does he have a seatbelt on? Is he like buckled in? That says a lot. Is he just kind of look like he's whiplashed into the passenger seat? Right? Like, I don't know.
I will say hold on to that.
Oh, that's a lot of holding on to. I like these are okay.
The theory's about to cook, but also like new details very small minor details, I'll add that, seem to unfurl in the modern investigation. So I will say the seatbelt is definitely an element here. And it also matches up with my gut instinct because like not everybody drives around with a seatbelt, and not only that, but like again, the splatter could have been from him hitting the passenger side during a rollover. If it's violent enough and you're tumbling over in a certain direction, yeah, you're going to be centrifugal force throwing you that way.
Yeah.
Now, what's also interesting is that when investigators look at the scene of the crime, they're saying there's no evidence of another car being here. There's no skid marks on the road, no signs of heavy braking or stopping or evasive maneuvers, no tracks in the grass, meaning that this seemed to be purely a single car accident, that someone simply lost control of the car, not at a ridiculous speed because the car isn't like tumbling violently way past the trench. The trench did its job of stopping the vehicle. So that does give some clarity as to, okay, it does seem to be something he did or something this mysterious group of four might have done. Now, this is where some new information comes to play with these two truck drivers, because the police took them both in for interviews and did these separately, which allows you to kind of corroborate what was seen that night and bolt down on the more accurate, what are they both saying that matches? Now, what's interesting is they both had the exact same account of that night, which means that everything you can surmise might be pretty accurate. Unless they're sitting there kind of like, let's plan this,
Right, yeah.
You could be cynical and say, these two guys were part of the four. I don't know. I didn't even think about that, but I'll wax poetic about that later maybe. But they're talking to the police. They give the same account. And this is where they both separately give a story about seeing a person in a white jacket walking away from the scene as they arrived. Now, again, this is 3 a.m. on the Autobahn 45, moving away from a car accident. Now, some reports seem to indicate that this person was injured. Maybe they were limping or what have you. We don't know exactly what type of injury. So again, I'm not sure if this is accurate or not. But to add to the confusion, there were also reports from witnesses that include drivers on the road that night. And many of those drivers seem to have seen an additional hitchhiker on the Hagensud exit. So now we have these two truckers who checked out the scene. We have a few drivers who have seen a few things. And now we have a mysterious person in a white jacket and a mysterious hitchhiker, if they're not the same person.
Yeah, so we got some witnesses. So this is where we're getting all that information of people are saying, I've seen this or I've seen that. Okay.
Yes. Now, unfortunately, of course, it is relatively unsolved until we have an answer at the end, but we don't know who the person in white would have been. We don't know who the hitchhiker was, and we don't know if or who these four men that Stoll claims were in the car with him, right? Like none of them were ever identified, and it's unknown if there's any overlap between these mysterious people.
Wow, that there's not more information on them.
I don't know. I guess how do you chase that down? It's a mysterious person in a weird place at a strange time.
Yeah.
But how else do you track that down?
Yeah, that's a good point. Damn.
Yeah. So now we start to build up to some questions, but before we do, there is the autopsy report.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so there's no explanation for why Stoll was so far from home, but the autopsy report concluded that the cause of his death was a head and chest injury sustained at a high-speed impact. I think this is essential. He had several fractures and internal traumas consistent with a vehicle collision or a crash similar to the one he was found in, and in his toxicology report, they found that he was not under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, poisons, or other substances.
Okay, so we could rule that out.
Yes, which again confusingly goes against some of the eyewitness reports from the bar. Again, not most, but some that say he might have been inebriated when he passed out.
That's a good point. I guess it would still be in your system, right?
Totally. Yes. Yeah. Even if you feel sober, that's still going to be some level of BAC measurable on you post-mortem. Now, lastly, and I think importantly, based on the kind of paranoia and the claims happening, is that there's no defensive wounds on his body. These would be things like palm and forearm injuries, things that you would expect if somebody was like trying to shield themselves from an attack, certainly on the dominant side especially, but that's the investigation.
That's right. He did say that people tried to, the people beat him up.
Yeah, he's like, people are following me, they're trying to harm me, and 4 people beat me up. Yeah, exactly.
Where's the evidence of that? Where are the bruises? Where's the the DNA? Oh, they can't do DNA quite yet, but like, stuff like that.
He does have bruises, traumas, fractures, but again, the coroner in the autopsy is saying that they're conclusive to a vehicle crash. Now again, this goes to, is it the crash that he was in? Or is this a mysterious crash that happened prior to the accident, right?
Yeah.
So those will be very important elements as we get into the modern investigation. But let me do a quick recap on the questions here because there are so many unknowns. So, and I don't even think I've got all of them listed here. These are just the questions I had as I was spitting here. So what did Stoll know when he exclaimed, "Now I understand"? What was that? Why did Stoll flee into the night after having this moment? I mean, yes, he went to the bar, but then he passed out and didn't go home. He just disappeared. What happened during those 2 windows of 2 hours where he was completely unaccounted for? Yes, maybe travel to and from places, but 10-minute drive, 2 hours of unknown, I don't know.
What was his profession again?
He was unemployed at the time for a few months, but he was a food engineer.
All right, so nothing there that would like link him to like the government or something.
No, but I'm sniffing what you're putting down.
Yeah, I was trying to see like what that would tie, you know what I mean? Like how can I make a connection or just some assumption or my theories essentially around these 4 mysterious men.
Okay. Well, can you answer this? Why did he visit an adult from his childhood on this night? And then, of course, as you were kind of getting at, who were these 4 men that Stoll told the trucker about? Was one of them the person in the white jacket, last seen walking away from the crash? What about the oddly timed hitchhiker on the same road at this mysterious hour? And then, of course, what caused Stoll to appear intoxicated and pass out at the bar if his toxicology came back clean? And then, of course, what does YOGTZE mean? What do these 6 letters mean? And do we even have it correct? Could it be that, we couldn't read his handwriting?
The thing is, like, is this just, did he have an episode?
Very much could be.
And that's why all these sporadic things happened, right? And they happened in his head, but I don't know, right? Right now, that's the thing that can connect all this together because it's so sporadic.
It's very sporadic, seemingly random, and I think you're onto something. That would be my gut instinct as well, is that, what is the nexus point for all of these confusing elements? It's him. It all pivots around him. So there is a world where all of these things are true and it's very curious. And there is a reality where all these things are not true and they are in his head. Very much on the table. Before we dive in, I want to talk about this note because you'd think that this would be a hard piece of evidence. It's a very curious element of the case. And of course, the whole case is known for this note. So police, of course, are talking to his wife about everything, essentially. She's telling them about the odd behavior, including the cryptic message that she found. She noticed that he wrote this before he left. Now, what's really unfortunate is that police were unable to recover the original note because Stoll's wife said she threw it out that very night that he died. You know, he goes off, and I guess she sees this note is scribbled down and maybe partially scribbled out, and so she goes, oh, let me just throw that in the trash. But in the morning, did you take the trash out? Did you incinerate it? When you found out the next day that your husband was missing and or dead, grab that sucker.
Yeah. That note would have been pulled out of that trash can. I don't care if
so fast.
If it was on, I'm pulling it out. I'm putting it in a Ziploc bag. I'm washing my hands 15 times.
15 for the dirt. 16th is for the germs.
Yeah, 17 for the feel of it.
17 just for the fun.
Yeah,
because I like it.
But like, I'm with you 100%. How do you not pull that out? You could almost be certain that she has retraced every single event that has happened in the last 24 hours, even further than that. And that note has got to stand out like a sore thumb. And to not have pulled it out doesn't make any sense. Maybe she was caught up in her emotions, but it's difficult. It's difficult because it doesn't seem like their relationship was strained in any way, that there was any animosity between them. So you'd think that there's understanding, there's a sense of love there and loss, and with that usually comes wanting to find the answer, and that would play a huge role.
Yeah,
I mean, they reported it, but still, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, you could get cynical and say like you're kind of getting at is she part of this in some way? Honestly, I think it's just an honest accident. I don't know how it gets lost. I just looked this up because I was curious. October 26, 1984 was a Friday. So Germans shout out, is Friday a common trash day? It is here. Thursdays and Fridays, as far as I'm aware.
That's true. Could have been trash day. Threw it in there and then walked the trash out because, you do your chores.
Yeah. So maybe much like a movie, she sat there telling the police and they're like, well, where is this note? Right when it gets tipped into the bin, right when it gets tipped into the truck and shipped off to the landfill. And it's just bad timing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was quick to assume that it wasn't trash day, but it very well could have been.
Yeah. So this is where some wiggle room is introduced into not only the theories, but the case at large, is that she rewrites the note from memory. This is what she goes like, this is what I saw that night. I remember him scratching out in a certain way. So she writes it out again for them. We don't know what the original note looks like, but a lot of people online have theorized that maybe the characters just didn't match. I don't know what his handwriting, man, this is something I wish we had.
I know.
Give me handwriting from this guy, from other sources, so then I can see what his YOGTZE would have looked like. Because her handwriting is going to be different, the way she reads it could be wrong, but basically, people are thinking, well, maybe the O wasn't an O. Maybe it was a 0. Maybe the Z was a 2. Maybe the G was a 6. What if it was something else?
That's a very good point. Yeah, the fact that we don't have the actual image itself. But I mean, that's why it's a mystery, right? You're not going to have everything you want, if anything at all. That would have just sent this into a spiral. Would we have solved anything? Would anyone else have solved anything? Probably not, right? But man, would that have been an image that we would have hyper focused on?
Oh, well, don't worry. We'll still try to hyper focus on it here because we're going to try to figure out, we're going to look at these theories as to what this YOGTZE might be. But of course, when you start to introduce letter swaps to numbers, it becomes almost infinite. But a lot of people were trying to decipher what this note means. So let's talk about that because we got no suspects. The trail is run cold. That's where we're at in 1984, all the way up through April of 2025. So that's where these theories were the prominent theories for this time. Okay, the first one up is that some have theorized that Stoll's wife was mistaken, that the word cryptically written on the piece of paper was actually Y06 apostrophe T2E or something of that variety. Again, just swapping some letters for numbers. And this kind of code would have looked a lot more like a license plate, which is very interesting. Yeah, it's been proposed that this potential license plate idea here could have been the car that ran Stoll over, or perhaps the car that he thought was following him. Because I don't think he's able to, I mean, the big issue with that logic is like, is he predicting the car that ran him over that night? Some people think that, he had a premonition and that's what's going on. But again, my instinct is way simpler. If he's being followed and he sees a car and he writes down the license plate and maybe he goes, oh, Eureka, I've got it. I've seen this license plate somewhere else before. All of that makes way more sense to me.
It does make way more sense. And I don't know why I'm thinking this now, but I'm just like, wait a second. If my significant other is just like frantic and they write something down on a piece of paper and they say Eureka, I'm gonna want to know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
That's just in general, not me thinking anything nefarious is going down. I'm not gonna be able to relax until you tell me what the hell that was about. What happened right there?
Right. And what was that stroke of brilliance? Can I get in on this? Like,
can I get in on it? What do you want? Well, what medication are you taking? Is this limitless? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, is it limitless?
But like that's exactly where my mind is at. Oh man, hindsight is 20/20. That's just in my nature. There's no way you're saying Eureka and me not asking what.
Oh, well, what you talking about, honey?
What are you talking about? Nothing. What do you mean nothing? Like, just give me something. Tell me something about it.
Yeah, what do you mean nothing? Then you flee out the door. Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, no, I'm running out the door with you.
Right. Okay, Eureka. I'm grabbing my coat. Let's go.
Where are we going? What is happening? That's true. There's no way in hell you're yelling Eureka at home, running out the door, and I'm just like, that was weird.
Mm-hmm,
All right.
But you're right. I'm with you. And again, yeah, sure. Does it cast a little bit of sideways suspicion to the wife? Maybe, but I think you're right. I think, hindsight's 20/20. It's unclear though if police ever investigated the idea of this being a license plate at the time. No known license plate that we're aware of matched any sort of iteration of this code. So maybe it just sounded really fancy. Maybe it sounded really plausible, but actually just wasn't. Never really manifested anything. But the next theory is simple. It's pretty simple. Some have noted that when you change the G to a 6 and nothing else, the code becomes the call for a Romanian radio station. So just one letter away from a radio station. And while it's an interesting coincidence, there's no real evidence that Stoll had any connection to this radio station, that he was listening to it, that he would have known about it. But also, like, why would he have written this radio station down and then there's no other ties? So that theory kind of peters out. Now, this next one is the one that made me really, it's wild, but it works. It's the one that made me really intrigued to explore this case. It starts to dabble with corporate espionage, maybe. So some have theorized that the scribble has ties back to Stoll's days as a food engineer. TZE is reportedly an ingredient that is commonly used as a flavor additive in yogurt, which may have been how he arrived at YOG for yogurt and TZE for this ingredient. Some have speculated that Stoll potentially uncovered some sort of danger in the food supply, making him a target, or maybe he became aware of an ingredient that shouldn't have been added. Again, food science brilliance, insert here, and that's what this cryptic code is. It's for people that would have known and no one else.
I knew there was going to be some way we tied it to like government stuff, which is like also, that's why I asked his profession. But I do feel like it's a stretch here. Like,
it's a bit of a stretch.
Like, we're really trying to make it work. Is a food engineer. He found something, and then this happened, and he just knew something about the food supply, and then that's why like they were after him. And
yeah.
Feel like if that was something that was a thing, a food supply is such a massive public thing that not just one person would discover it. I don't feel like,
Right.
I feel like when you're producing food and you're probably producing a mass amount of it, there's just so many links in the chain where if you were doing something that is worth killing a person or dangerous to people would find out, right? Or there would be later evidence within people's health or some type of outbreak or something that would lead to something like that.
Yeah, I find it to be really interesting. Like, unless he had some sort of incredible breakthrough where he was like, we can make a 0-calorie yogurt if we do this and we'll have all the flavor. Like, but if it's a known ingredient, it gets a little wibbly wobbly. I tried to search TZE as a food ingredient and it was coming up with like, maybe that's a typo. Maybe you meant this. So I don't know, but there's something else still in this same vein here because others have pointed out that YOGTZE rearranged could be an anagram. Okay, an anagram for the word zygote. Now, I don't want to get too into the weeds about zygotes and biology, but a zygote is the first developmental stage for many multicellular organisms. It forms a pair of male and female reproductive cells that contain genetic information used in creating each organism. All that to say that when you are making genetically modified food, scientists will use this stage of a zygote, like a single cell, in order to disperse the modification to the rest of the cells in that plant or what have you. And so, again, it's kind of like pulling at strings here. It's a plausibility. As a food engineer, this rearranges to zygote. It's a stretch, but it's an interesting coincidence nonetheless.
Yeah, it is.
It's not like, oh, wait, he wrote the code zygote. We got to kill this guy, like.
Yeah, like worthy of like spending resources to take this guy out type of situation. I don't know. Not quite sure about that.
This is when the idea of corporate espionage, cover-ups of mishandling of food or what have you all come to the table because, like, if he knew something, then, like, maybe he was a whistleblower and they were like, we got to put a kibosh. We've seen that. But here, maybe, but I'm not seeing it as much, personally.
I mean, I do like that we're exploring everything, right? Every little nook and cranny. That I do appreciate because you want to flesh this stuff out.
Yeah, let's get to the bottom of it.
For me, I'm trying to put a little bit more stock into it, but it just seems a little far out there.
It's conspiracy, yeah.
But not in the way where I'm just like, that's just so far. And then the way of like, man, how can this connect more?
Like, I can see it, but I need more.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see more on it because I do like the string, right? If we're looking at if we're looking at the board, the cork board and the red webs and everything like that, I feel like we looked a lot in these different areas and we have this one string that goes off and kind of like spirals just a little bit into other things. And that's the food section in his career. And I'm just like, I'm looking at it now harshly, just going, where can I spin another web off of this section? And I just can't think of one. That's the thing. I can't.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we don't know why he was unemployed. Maybe it has something to do with this. We don't know why he felt he was being pursued. Maybe it's because of it attaches a few ingredients together. I can see it, but I'm with you. Something that more firmly ties it together. I feel like it needs another major clue or two for me to really feel like it's not just a conspiracy theory.
True.
I forgot this one was in here because, again, it's also very short, but some sleuths on Reddit have noticed that if you look at YOGTZE upside down, like a calculator, and you turn it upside down, it actually resembles the number 371902, and that apostrophe becomes a comma, so 371,902. Some have also seen different number combinations, for example, 027, 906. Ultimately, it's unclear what this might lead to. Again, it's just another step in the possible or plausible decryption of whatever this thing might be. But I think the biggest wrinkle in all of these is that underlaying it all is we don't have the original note. We only have his wife's memory of it and what she wrote down. And so it really it might undermine all of these theories, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point. We have a lot in terms of like what happened to him, right? Where he ended up. But that note is just such a subtle but massive part of the mystery. And there's just no way. That's why I'm even more intrigued on how did we solve this? Yeah.
So let's talk about the theories behind the accident and the death. And then, of course, we'll conclude with no mysteries left unturned. And then we'll talk about, like what did they conclude today and what did they see differently that we didn't see back then? Okay, so because we talked about it just recently, let's talk about the whistleblower theory on his death now, not just the note. It might seem unlikely, though some believe that Stoll might have been a security risk or a whistleblower or something of that kind, in a covert modification project, which would have made him a target. We don't know his level of knowledge or depth in the field of food engineering, but maybe, again, when you don't know, you can kind of fill in the gaps that you don't. And so a lot of people are thinking, well, maybe he knew about a covert modification project here. And if he was in such a position, he could have been followed home after the bar, or maybe even seen a person of interest, someone that he recognized and was terrified of at the bar, which would have caused him to kind of stumble over in shock, maybe even fall down. And that maybe if he was followed after the pub, again, filling in a lot of gaps here, but maybe if he was followed outside the pub, these 4 men could have jumped in the car with him as the passenger, and maybe the rest of the night unfolded in a mysterious but then kind of make sensing kind of way. Like, maybe that's why he went to a familiar face but not his family, if he was in direct danger or there's men in the car that might hurt someone, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this could explain the mysterious circumstances around his death, but ultimately there's no evidence of Stoll being part of any sort of suspicious activity regarding food engineering or modification. There's no other, as you were kind of looking for, hard pieces of evidence to draw in the idea, corporate espionage or whistleblowing or what have you. But this moves us into a little bit more plausible arenas, like this next one. Local police at this time of the accident kind of pursued the lead that Stoll might have been involved in some sort of organized crime. Stoll would take frequent vacations to the Netherlands, and this might have led to possible connections, rumored connections, to Dutch drug lords. So there's some factual evidence here, not with his connection to possible drug lords, but rather the idea of the Netherlands, right? So let's give some history. Police could not find any evidence tying him to criminal activity, but historically, there was a steep rise in organized crime in the Netherlands in the 1980s, following the decriminalization of marijuana in 1976. So this led to the illegal wholesale market to be largely unprotected, allowing drug lords to take control of the drug trade, and his frequent trips make him suspicious of this, but in no way tie him to this theory. But, it is a little bit more plausible, especially if he's gallivanting around that night, feeling followed, feeling like he might be under threat. It has nothing to do with his job. It might have anything to do, like maybe he got into this because he didn't have his job and he was looking for income. Like, again, reasonable assumptions, but no evidence.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's reasonable. And sitting here, it's crossed my mind, but I need something,
Gotta have some.
But it's a part of the process as you're trying to think about the mystery.
Right.
I don't see how it doesn't cross your mind, but there's nothing there.
Sniffing up these nuggets of truth and trying to you have all these loose threads and you're just trying to be like, is there anything else that could tie these together?
Is it on the board? Our little cork board? Yes, definitely. I don't got any strings to it.
Is it far away from the center?
Yeah, is it far away from the center, right? Is it off to the side, just a list of with nothing else tied to it, just with the other bunch of wild theories? Yeah, you kind of glance over and you go, and you go back to it.
Right, and as I always have on the opposite side of the board, right, way over there, did he have a casual rendezvous with a thicked-up alien that kept bopping and weaving him through the night 2 hours at a time before accidentally slamming him down in a car a little too vigorously?
It just says thicked up rendezvous, and you take it from every board, and when we have a new mystery, you stick it on that one and you go, hear me out.
Right. The odds are good that if I keep taking it to each mystery, it will hit.
Eventually it'll stick.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll take it and we'll put it in the middle and go, my God.
Yeah. And it will be my death at the perfect age of 100.
Yeah.
And you'll put it right in the middle and go, my God. His body was never found, but he went peacefully in the night. I don't know how we have both of those pieces of information, but this answers it right here.
Here's the answer.
Okay. Getting back onto the page of Sirius, we have one more theory. I keep teasing this answer. It's not going to be a mind blow. I just like it, but it's interesting how they have a different, an opposite conclusion. I'll tease it with that. Okay. Last theory that was kind of very, very common until this answer last year, okay, is that it's the non-homicidal explanation for the crash. It's that Stoll accidentally or intentionally crashed his car in a severe mental episode. His altered state of mind could have caused him to drive erratically at a high speed, leading him to lose control of the vehicle and crash. Some believe that Stoll might have intentionally crashed his car during a complete mental breakdown, though again, we don't really know what he might have been suffering from, but clearly some sort of mental health crisis. But what's interesting is that these theories were initially dismissed by investigators because Stoll's final words about other men being in this car seemed so strong. And then you also have this person in the white jacket walking away from the crash. You also have the hitchhiker. You know, like, were any of these people part of these mysterious 4 men? And honestly, like, we don't know. But when an obvious piece of potential foul play comes to mind, that's where the police are going to go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why it was looked over at the time, rather than exploring the idea of self-harm. But it kind of gives me a wild tinfoily hat theory here. Like, you know, if you take what he was experiencing at face value, right? I do think that the mental health crisis was very, very likely, all things considered, and not an expert in psychology in any way. It just has a lot of those elements that we've seen in other cases. But what if, in a wild turn of events, the 4 men was a real story, and that since he's so near death and barely conscious, he doesn't recognize that these 2 truckers are 2 of those men, the person walking away in a white jacket is another of the men, and then the hitchhiker is the 4th. All people mysteriously at that location at that time of night, 3 a.m. on the side of this road. Again, I don't have anything else to go with.
Yeah.
But like, it again, Occam's razor, I think it is a mental health crisis issue because it takes the least number of assumptions to get there. The other theory takes a lot more answering. Okay, then what's the note? Who was following him? Why were they following him? Why did they attack him? Why did they kill him? Very valid questions to explore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm with you on that. And that's already where my mind was at. Just makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the path of least resistance.
Yeah. And this, I think, leads us very comfortably to the April 2025 investigation. The Hagen police announced that this long cold case is now considered to be solved.
Okay.
Further DNA testing, right? I say further, there wasn't really any DNA testing in the 80s, but looking back on it with this new technology, this showed that there was no other DNA samples in that car. So it's extremely unlikely that anybody else was in the car besides Stoll. This really interrupts the idea that 4 other men were squeezed in there with him because it's not a huge car for 5 people.
Yeah, it's not.
Additionally, new investigations found that Stoll's injuries actually did not match being run over by a car, but instead aligned more with the car crash he was in, which is interesting because the very fresh autopsy investigation kind of concluded that yes, he had injuries, but they didn't seem to match the accident he was found in. Now, modern investigation completely disagrees with that.
Yeah, was that just like a poor autopsy? Like, what happened there?
It could be. Honestly, it really could be.
Yeah.
No matter how good you are, it could be that you have like a different conclusion than the next experts. I'll kind of get tinfoily here in a second, but yeah, I mean, it is interesting that they kind of concluded differently. Now, this new evidence, combined with the knowledge that Stoll was suffering from psychological problems, right, the paranoia of being followed, etc., led police to believe that he was likely in a single-car traffic accident. Investigators stated that Stoll was likely in a heightened state of paranoia, explaining his strange behavior, and filling in the gaps, maybe he saw something that night that might not have been there. We will never know. But ultimately, if he's panicked like he was when he saw the elderly woman that he kind of knew as a child, like, who's to say he wasn't driving paranoid, you know, and that it didn't impact his motor skills?
I mean, if he's in this frantic mental state, everything mentally, physically, all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as either, eyewitnesses at the bar, as they saw.
That connects the pieces, I think, more solidly. Yes, is there tinfoil room here? Absolutely. There always, I feel like, is. But this connects the dots with less assumptions and more firmly in my mind. No, but this comes back to one of the many other pieces that I asked for you to hold on to. Like him being in the passenger seat. They had an answer for this because they concluded that he was likely not wearing his seatbelt, as you were kind of thinking about out loud. And so when this rollover happened, he was flung into the passenger seat as the car crashed down into the ditch, hence why the splatter was mostly on that side of the car. And finally, I mean, of course, now we have, okay, well, what's the note then? Well, investigators believe that YOGTZE, this note, must have been irrelevant to the case, nothing more than a strange coincidence, or perhaps just a byproduct of, again, whatever he was experiencing and going through that night. Just another of the multiple byproducts of that it might not have meant anything.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that if we do go down this path of like a mental break, then at that point, all of it could be for nothing.
I mean, it's interesting. Again, you can get tinfoil hat and say, well, they're just trying to solve a case, so they have, some sort of completion rate, or so that way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can always start firing blindly into the unknown. But I think what's interesting is that they kind of have one key piece, right? The 1984 autopsy says this body was injured while naked and injured prior to and more severely than this crash could have done it. And then modern investigation says, nope, everything kind of lines up, honestly. I think that's interesting. I don't know why it's interesting. I think even just from two professionals across time looking at the same case, it's just interesting. Man, I don't know. Either way, right? I'm still super fascinated by the man in the white jacket seen walking down the road away from this incident, because this is corroborated by, yes, sure, two guys who arrived together who said they saw this separately. Would they have planned a story? Maybe. Why would they do that? I don't know.
Why? Yeah.
But yeah, so they see a person in a white jacket walking down the road at 3 a.m. away from a crash site that they didn't report. So did they see this accident? If they did, why didn't they report it? Were they part of it? And if they were, then what's that have to say about modern forensics closing the case? So my tinfoil idea on this person, right? And this is not even I think I have read a few strapped on tinfoil theories, right? Was this person a lab tech from a food lab who knew a little something about hiding his prints and his DNA at the scene of a crime? But it's a theory, right? It's a tinfoil theory. It's a conspiracy theory. It's got no legs to stand on, and it's not even smelling right.
Yeah.
But I have seen people kind of fumbling around going like, does that confirm the cover-up, this espionage element, and that modern police are just kind of paid off? I don't know. I don't like even putting it out there, but it's out there. I think it's still a mental health crisis.
I think it is too. I'm not getting enough. I'm not getting enough for it to be anything more than that.
I mean, it's a great example of a case where we do have an answer and yet conspiracies still happen. I think that's a fascinating human element. Like our need, our desire to fill in the unknown, whether it's for comfort or curiosity or the natural desire to explore. I don't know. So if nothing else, I do think we have an answer here. I think that provides some closure, but it's a really interesting example of how humans approach a case like this, and maybe why we're so intrigued with the unknown, I
think so. I think because there's so many variables and there's this juicy little note and vivid moment in the mystery, so it makes it so enticing.
Yes, it's that juicy note, dude.
It really is, and it kind of puts it in two sections, right? You have all the pre-mystery and the post-mystery. It's kind of where we're sitting at here.
Yeah, this might be one of the first times we've explored two related but separate theories sections, attempting to answer different things.
That's true. Yeah, it really was its own, the note had its own set of theories, and yeah, it was a good one.
It's a very interesting one. Thank you again, Fenric, for submitting this.
Great submission.
And again, Task Force, if you're interested, if there's cases we haven't explored, we've made a post at redwebpod.com. It's free for anybody that visits, and it's somewhere on there. It's not too far back. Every now and then we try to pin it to the top so you can come see it, but it's also hyperlinked in the tier benefits, so you can find it for sure. But yeah, submit your topics if you want us to explore it. But this case is wild. I actually appreciate that there is some sort of answer here, because I would have been real mad. This is just one of those cases I would have been real mad with the gaps in knowledge.
Oh yeah, I completely would have been, but we had so much and just... We had a lot of strong pieces, but then it's wild because it never spiraled into anything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's here's the pre, here's the strong pieces, here's the post, here's the strong pieces, and then from there, theorize all you want, but that's all you get.
Guess, yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to give you any ideas. I know you're a man of mystery. Ultimately, throughout your days, you'll be dropping little breadcrumbs, little notes, little clues. And I know that when you pass in the far, far future from now, quiet and peaceful, healthy as you could be, just going out like a light, there's going to be a wild ARG set in your place that your children will have to
1,000%.
unwind.
1,000%. I've already talked about this a handful of times. And you're going to get a little tape.
Yeah, and the clues are laid in every single episode here.
Oh, yeah. She's chilling next to me. She's got a little robe, and it's like, hello, task force. You thought just because I'm dead that this is over.
Right. And I'm like, oh my God, he's got 7 movies out of this.
It's going to be like years after. It's like, here comes another tape. He's just not staying dead in the ground. How many did it record? And you go, well, when you first talk about it, 30 years ago, a lot of time to record casually here and there.
Oh my God. He's like, he's jumping all around in age, and these are just scheduled releases on a far dead Red Web YouTube channel. This is wild. But honestly, this gives me notes for your little ARG book. The minute you start kind of expanding your family, and you could even start doing it now, every now and then you just walk into a room, you say something innocuous like, get after it. And then you write something intriguing on a piece of paper and you throw it on the floor and you walk away. So no matter what happens, an accident, something planned, or nothing at all, you've got these like mysterious misdirects that will just, just nasty stuff.
Oh, just a bunch of misdirects, You just go, we can't believe anything this man said.
Not at all.
This man was just laying down the foundation of like decoys left and right. And so I don't know. And people are just gonna get to the point where you go, I just don't care.
Yeah, you know what it's gonna be? Minute 1 when the tape comes on, you go, I've laid clues throughout my life. And you're like,
Click.
nah.
Nah, I already know this is gonna be some BS that's gonna take years and years. Nah, I'm good.
Pass. Click. Wait, don't hit it.
That's you get an email to go, wow, so you fall in for my video trap.
Oh,
well, let me
God.
explain the true nature of this.
Block. You get a text. I see you blocked my email.
Yeah, it's gonna change. As I predicted, the blocked email has set a chain in motion. Here's a voicemail.
You thought you unsubscribed. A phone call later on a rotary telephone and a payphone even. This is nutty.
That's good. It's going to be a whole chain.
I believe it. I believe it to happen. The great mystery of 2178, Alfredo plays. What was he doing? Answer, nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not going to be anything profound.
We dug through the archives 150 years ago, he admitted. Okay, well, Task Force, Fredo, as we come to an end, man, what a wild classic episode for Red Web. What a interesting one. We've been on a run, a tear right now.
Yeah, we have movies and episodes firing on all cylinders.
Yes, sir. I think this Friday, speaking of, we've got Movie Club on Resident Evil. 2002's Resident Evil.
Yes, we do.
My first experience with any Resident Evil, so come on, hang out. That redwebpod.com link is available to you there. But man, yeah, we're coming up on 300 episodes. And I don't know if we got anything big planned for that one or not, because here we are cooking away right now. But man, it's wild to still be on a tear. So many episodes in. So I want to thank you all. Just some shout outs here, specifically Sonia for our newest task force member. Thank you so much for joining just like minutes ago. Cluster Storm is our buff scientist of the week. And of course, our squonks of the week are Gavin Day, Low K, and Holster, just to name a few. But Task Force, Fredo, Christian, who is off doing some acting wonderfulness. Thank you all. 300 episodes is nutty to think about. All right. With that said, Fredo, we inch ever closer to 300. And I'll see you right here next Monday for yet another mystery.